The next topic is causality. The next topic is causality. For a rational h of s is nothing but my Laplace transform of the system, right? Or the transfer function of the system. Transfer function of the system. If my h of s is rational, that is in the form of p by q, the system is causal. The system is causal if and only if the ROC is right half of the plane. System is causal if and only if its ROC is the right half plane to the right of the rightmost pole, right? That means it has to be like this. For any given h of s, for any given transfer function of the system, if the ROC is towards the right of the rightmost pole, then we call that system as a causal system. That is what we saw in the third case of the previous problem, right? When the ROC is greater than -2, right? It was to the right of the rightmost pole. That is the, we can say, when the system is causal. If the system if the system if the ROC is left of the leftmost pole, if the ROC is to the left of the leftmost pole, then we call such system as a anti-causal system, right? The system is anti-causal when the ROC is left of the leftmost pole. Suppose this is my leftmost pole and I have multiple poles here, B, C, and so on. The leftmost pole is A and my ROC is towards the left of the leftmost pole. Then I call the system as anti-causal, right? Suppose I have two different poles. I have two different poles, minus A and A. In this case, I'm just denoting with minus A and A. And if my ROC is in between these two poles, in between these two poles, then I call my system as non-causal. Non-causal, right? Non-causal. So if my ROC is if my ROC of the transfer function of the system, right? My ROC, if I have a system with transfer function h of s and my ROC is right of the rightmost pole, then I call it causal system. If my ROC is left of the leftmost pole, I call it anti-causal system. And if my ROC is in between two poles, I call the system to be non-causal. So there are three types of systems: causal, anti-causal, non-causal. Causal means the ROC of that system is towards the right of the rightmost pole. Anti-causal means the ROC of the system is left of the leftmost pole, and non-causal means the ROC is in between any two poles. It can be in between any two poles. So this is causality, and the other part is stability, right? We now know the conditions for causality of the system. Next we'll look for the condition for stability of the system. So when we'll say the system is stable, right? For a stable LTI continuous time causal system, it is in short we can say the system is stable if my ROC includes j omega axis, right? My system, I will call it stable if my ROC includes the j omega axis. That is what in a single line I can say about stability. Now we'll look for a stable LTI continuous time causal system. The poles should lie on the left half of the S-plane and j omega axis should be included in the ROC. Now let us decode this statement. Now I am looking for the condition for stability in a causal system, right? Causal system. I am looking for a stability condition for a causal system. What does causal system mean? Causal system means how will my ROC look like? It will look like it will be like right of the rightmost pole. It will be to the right of the rightmost pole. Suppose I have two different poles, one on the left side and one on the right side. And if my system is a causal system, so what happens? My rightmost pole is here, right? This is my rightmost pole. And since it is causal, my ROC is right of the rightmost pole. It is right of the rightmost pole. Now my ROC does not include j omega axis, right? If you look at this graph here, my ROC, which is right of the rightmost pole, does not include j omega axis. So it is not stable, right? For my system to be stable, my ROC should include j omega axis. But in this case, it is not including j omega axis. So if my ROC has to include j omega axis, for a causal system, this pole should be left of the j omega axis, right? If all my poles are on the left side of the j omega axis, then my rightmost pole, I have many poles on the left of the j omega axis, and my rightmost pole is going to be here. And since my system is a causal system, since my system I'm considering is a causal system, my ROC is going to be towards the right hand side, right? Towards the right side. Now, if you look at this ROC, it includes my j omega axis. The j omega axis is included here. So then we can say the system we have considered, the causal system we have considered is stable, right? So for a causal system to be stable, all of the poles of the system, all poles of the system must be in the left half of the S plane, must be in the left half of the S plane, right? S plane, left half of the S plane means it will in this region, right? Left half of the S plane. If all my poles of the system are in the left half of the S plane and my system is a causal system, then I can say my causal system is stable. My causal system is stable. This is for the stability of causal system. Now we look at stability for non-causal system. Stability of non-causal system. Or let us consider stability of anti-causal system first, right? For the anti-causal system, what happens? It should be opposite of the causal system, right? If all the For the anti-causal system, if all my poles are on the right half of the S plane, right half of the S plane, then what happens? Since the system is anti-causal, my ROC is left of the leftmost pole. So this is my leftmost pole, right? This is my leftmost pole. Left of the leftmost pole includes my j omega axis. Since left of the leftmost pole includes my j omega axis, my anti-causal system is stable. When is my anti-causal system stable? Only when all the poles of the system are on the right half of the S plane. Right half of the S plane. That is for anti-causal. Now we'll look for non-causal system. Non-causal system. For a stable LTI non-causal system, j omega axis should be included in the ROC. Non-causal system, that means my ROC is in between two poles, right? My ROC is in between two poles. That means one of the poles must be on the left hand side, the other pole must be on the one pole must be in the left half of the S plane and the other pole must be in the right half of the S plane. Only then my ROC will contain the j omega axis, right? If both poles are on the left side, then my ROC for a two-sided signal or non-causal system will be something like this. It will not contain the j omega axis. Similarly, if both poles are on the right side and my signal or my system is a two-sided signal, this will be my ROC. It will not contain the j omega axis. So for my non-causal system to be stable, I should have one pole on the left of the j omega axis and the other pole on the right of the j omega axis, and the ROC must be in between those two poles, right? In between those two poles. So simple condition for stability of non-causal system is the j omega axis should be included in the ROC. J omega axis should be included in the ROC. The system is said to be marginally stable if h of s has any poles on j omega axis and the rest of the poles in left half. Right? This is the marginally stable system. If you have poles, all poles on left hand side, or the left of the j omega axis, and there is any poles on the j omega axis, then we call such system as marginally stable. It is not completely stable, but it is marginally stable. That is about stability. Now we will try and find the stability of the system when the impulse response of the system is given. So this is the impulse response of the system, h of t. Right? This is the impulse response of the system. Now we'll comment on the stability of the system. When will the system be stable? Now we have h of t. Now let us apply Laplace transform for h of t. What we'll have? 4 Laplace transform of e power minus t u of t is nothing but 1 by s plus 1. And for e power minus 3t u of t, the Laplace transform is 1 by s plus 3. For the first Laplace, for the first term, what is the ROC? ROC is sigma greater than minus 1. Sigma greater than minus 1. Since it is multiplied by u of t, it is a causal system, right? It is multiplied by u of t. We can consider that as a causal system. First one is sigma greater than minus 1, and for the second one, the ROC is going to be sigma greater than minus 3. When we take the common area between these two ROCs, the first ROC is sigma is greater than minus 1, and the second ROC is sigma greater than minus 3, right? Now the common area in between these two is this one, sigma greater than minus 1 is the common area. That is why my final ROC is sigma greater than minus 1. Now we have found out h of s. Now we have to comment on the stability. Since the ROC here is to the right of the rightmost pole. One pole is at minus 1, the other pole is at minus 3, right? And the rightmost pole here is minus 1. Minus 1 is my rightmost pole, and my ROC is towards the right of the rightmost pole. Since ROC is the right of the rightmost pole, and it includes j omega axis. Since my ROC is towards the right of the rightmost pole, it's a causal system, and for the causal system to be stable, all the poles must be on left hand side, and the ROC must include j omega axis. All the conditions for stability are being satisfied, so we can say the system is stable. That is how we can comment on stability of any given system. We'll find all the possible poles, right? All the possible poles we have found out, and then we have found out the ROC. And then we have checked for the position of poles, and we have checked for the ROC, and we have checked if the imaginary axis is included in the ROC. All the conditions were satisfied. Since then we said the system is stable. Right? The next topic is transfer function impulse response. It is same as what we have seen in Fourier transform. H of omega equals to y of omega by x of omega. That was the transfer function in case of Fourier transform. Now we have h of s equals to y of s by x of s, right? The same thing. Okay. This is the transfer function. This is the transfer function of the system, h of s. Y of s is the Laplace transform of the output. X of s is the Laplace transform of the input. All these in time domain, they are related by convolution. The output y of t is convolution between the input x of t and impulse response h of t. Right? This is the same thing that we have seen in the second and third units. The same thing. Now, if I take inverse Laplace of h of s, I will get h of t, which is nothing but the impulse response, right? Inverse transform of transfer function is nothing but impulse response. Now, we'll find some problems on. We'll do some problems based on. Now we'll do some problems on impulse response, finding the impulse response based on Laplace transform. We'll find the impulse response when we have the system defined in terms of differential equations. We are given some differential equations and we'll have to find the impulse response of the system. In the question, we are asked to assume zero initial conditions. If you remember, uh, time differentiation property of Laplace transform, we had a bilateral case and unilateral case, right? What was the bilateral case of time differentiation property? Dx of t by dt has a Laplace transform of s into x of s, right? S into x of s, or d power n x of t by dt power n x of t has a Laplace transform of s power n into x of s. This was the bilateral case. And in the unilateral case, for d power, or let us say d of x of t divided by dt, the Laplace transform was s into x of s into x of s minus x of 0 like that. For double differentiation, we had s square into x of s minus s into x of 0 minus s into x dash of, sorry, there is no s here, minus x dash of 0. So, right, these were the unilateral case. Now, in the question we are given assume zero initial conditions, right? Initial conditions means this x of 0 and x dash of 0, these are my initial conditions. So I am going to assume them as 0. Right? I can apply unilateral case and assume zero initial conditions, or when it is directly given assume zero initial conditions. What does this mean? The unilateral case is nothing but equal to bilateral case. Both are same. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase all this. Now I'm going to take the first case, 3 into d square y of t by dt square plus y of t equals to 0.5 into x of t. Now I'll apply Laplace transform for the first question. What happens if I apply Laplace transform? 3 is my constant. Laplace transform of d square y of t by dt square. I'll apply the unilateral case. So what will I get? D square y of t by dt square will have the Laplace transform of s square into y of s, right, plus or minus s into y of 0 minus y dash of 0 minus y dash of 0, right? Then plus Laplace transform of y of t is nothing but y of s equals to 0.5 into Laplace transform of x of t, that is x of s. Now they said assume 0 initial conditions. So what happens? What I can do is I can make y of 0 and y dash of 0, I can make it 0, right? Now let me simplify this equation. I'll take y of s common. So what do I have? I have 3 into s square plus 1, right? 3 into s square from this term, and here y of s is there. So 3 into s square plus 1. So 0.5 into x of s on the right hand side. So my y of s divided by x of s, right? Y of s divided by this x of s is going to be equal to 0.5 divided by 1 plus 3 s square. 1 plus 3 s square. That is what we have, right? Till this point, I hope it is clear. Now that is what we have at this point, 0.5 divided by 1 plus 3 s square. That is my h of s. Now I have to find the impulse response. To find the impulse response, I'll take inverse Laplace transform for h of s. If I take inverse Laplace of this, it is going to be h of t. That is inverse Laplace of 0.5 divided by 3s square plus 1. So how do I find inverse Laplace of this? I'm trying to convert it into some of the I'm trying to convert it into a standard Laplace transform pair. If you remember, we had a standard Laplace transform pair of uh, transform pair of sine, right? Sine omega naught t into u of t. What was the Laplace transform of sine omega naught t into u of t? The Laplace transform was omega naught divided by s square plus omega naught square. This was the Laplace transform pair, right? This was the Laplace transform pair we had. Now I will try and get this term here into this form, into omega naught by s square plus omega naught square. So since 0.5 is a constant, I took it outside, right? Since 0.5 is a constant, I took it outside. So what I have left inside? Inside I have 1 by 1 plus 3 s square, or 3 s square plus 1, right? But in the denominator, I need to have just s square here. In the denominator, I need to have just s square. So what I can do, I can write this one as 0.5 divided by 3. I'll take common. Now I have 1 by s square plus 1 by 3. S square plus 1 by 3. Now what is the form I have? S square plus omega naught square in the denominator. Now I'll write this in the form of omega naught square. So what I can write this one as? I can write as 0.5 divided by 3 into 1 by s square plus 1 by root 3 whole square. 1 by root 3 whole square. That is nothing but 1 by 3. Right? That is nothing but 1 by 3. Now The denominator, I got it in the required form, s square plus omega naught square. And in my numerator, I should have omega naught. What is my omega naught? It is 1 by root 3, right? 1 by root 3. So what I can write, this 3 I can write as root 3 multiplied by root 3. This root 3 I will take it to the numerator. So what will it become? It will become 1 divided by root 3 in the numerator, and this root 3 will go up from here, right? So this is same as my 0.5 divided by 3s square plus 1, right? The same rational p by q form, I have written it in a different form just to make it a standard Laplace transform pair. Standard Laplace transform pair. So this is what I have, 0.5 divided by root 3. That is a constant. I took it outside, and I have Laplace inverse of 1 by root 3 divided by s square plus 1 by root 3 whole square. Now since this is my standard Laplace transform pair, what is the Laplace inverse of omega naught divided by s square plus omega naught square? It is sine omega naught u of t. Compare these two terms, the term in the brackets here and the term on the right hand side here. Omega naught is equals to 1 by root 3. So my Laplace inverse is going to be 0.5 divided by root 3 into sine 1 by root 3 into t u of t. Sine 1 by root 3 t into u of t. So that is how I can find the inverse Laplace transform of given transfer function, right? We were given a differential equation. From that, we have found the transfer function of the system by taking Laplace transform on both sides. And then finally, I'm going to apply inverse Laplace transform to the transfer function and then get my impulse response. So this is the first part. Now we'll do the same thing for a second problem. That is dy of t by dt equals to x of t minus t naught. So we will apply Laplace transform for this. What will we get? We'll get s into y of s minus y of 0 minus y of 0 equals to x into s into e power minus s t naught. E power minus s t naught. This is time shifting, right? So the corresponding Laplace transform is x of s into e power minus s t naught. Since we have 0 initial conditions, this goes to 0. So we have y of s divided by x of s equals to e power minus s t naught into 1 by s into 1 by s. Right, that is what we have as our transfer function. Y of s by x of s is nothing but transfer function. Now we need to find the inverse Laplace transform of h of s to get the impulse response. So impulse response is nothing but inverse Laplace transform of e power minus s t naught divided by s. Now we know u of t. What is the Laplace transform of u of t? Laplace transform of u of t is equals to 1 by s, right? Laplace transform of u of t is equals to 1 by s. Now if I time shift my u of t, that is u of t minus t naught, I will introduce a phase shift in my Laplace transform. What is the corresponding phase shift? I should multiply with e power minus s into whatever is my time shift here, that is s t naught. That is what I have here, e power minus s t naught divided by s. So the corresponding inverse Laplace transform is u of t minus t naught. That is the impulse response. Now let us do the last part in this question. The last part in this question is I have the system equation here, right? The differential equation of the LTI system. Now I'll apply the Laplace transform on both sides and I'll simplify. So first I have s square into y of s minus s into y of 0 minus y dash of 0 plus 0.8 into s into y of s into y of s minus y of 0 plus 0.15 y of yes, this is the left hand side if I apply Laplace transform, and on the right hand side I have 0.2 s x of s into x of s minus x of 0 plus x of yes plus x of yes. Now since my initial conditions I can assume 0 in the question it is given assume initial conditions as 0. This becomes 0, this becomes 0, y of 0 is 0 and x of 0 is also 0. So what is left? If I take y of s common, I have s square plus 0.8 s plus 0.15 plus 0.15. On the right hand side I'll take x of s common. I have 0.2 s plus 1. Now y of s divided by x of s equals to 0.2 s plus 1 divided by s square plus 0.8 s plus 0.15. So this is my transfer function. 0.2 s plus 1 divided by s square plus 0.8 plus 0.15. This is my transfer function. Now I have to apply inverse Laplace transform for this transfer function to obtain the impulse response. So let me apply the inverse Laplace transform. I am factorizing my denominator into this, right? My roots of the denominator are s plus 0.3 and s plus 0.5. Now I'll apply partial fractions. Then I'll calculate the value of a and b similar to how we have done in the previous Laplace transform problems. So if I calculate I'll get a value as 4.7 and b value as negative 4.5. So I'll substitute a and b in this equation, right? So this is my h of t, right? H of t is equals to Laplace inverse of 4.7 divided by s plus 0.3 minus 4.5 divided by s plus 0.5. Now if I take the inverse of this, 4.7 is the constant, and Laplace inverse of 1 by s plus 0.3, that is nothing but e power minus 0.3 t into u of t minus 4.5 is the constant, and I have e power minus 0.5 t into u of t, right? That is my inverse of the transfer function, that is nothing but impulse response. This is my final answer. The next problem is using Laplace transform, determine the response of the system represented by the following differential equations. So one differential equation is given. This differential equation represents the system, and we have to find the response of the system. When x of t, that is the, then this is the input when x of t is equals to 2 into e power minus 3t u of t. For this input we need to find the corresponding y of t, that is the response of the system. And they have specified y of 0 and y dash of 0. These are nothing but our initial conditions. In the previous problem they haven't specified anything. They said assume 0 initial conditions. Now we have some initial conditions, we need to include these initial conditions. So first what we are going to do is we are going to apply Laplace transform for the differential equation. What Laplace transform we're going to apply? We're going to apply unilateral Laplace transform. So Laplace transform for this differential equation is going to be s square into y of s minus s into y of 0 minus y dash of 0 minus y dash of 0. This is for now. Whatever we have written here is the Laplace transform for the first term. Now for the second term, what is the Laplace transform? 1 by 4 is the constant, and I have s into y of s minus y of 0 minus y of 0. Then for the last one, for the last term, 0.4 into y of s, that is equals to 0 0.2 into s into x of s into x of s minus x of 0 minus x of 0 plus 1.25 into x of s. So this is my Laplace transform for the differential equation, right? That is the Laplace transform for the differential equation. Then I have to substitute the values of y of 0, y dash of 0. These are the initial conditions that are given, and I have y of 0 here, y dash of 0 here, here I have y of 0, and here I have x of 0. I don't know what is x of 0, right? X of 0 is not specified here. X of 0 is not specified, but I'm given the x of t. So from x of t I can find x of 0, right? If I put t equal to 0, what is my x of 0? X of 0 is 2 into e power minus 3 into 0, that is 1. U of 0 is nothing but 1, right? So 2 into 1 into 1. My x of 0 is 2, right? I can directly substitute t equals to 0 and find x of 0, or I can find x of s and apply initial value theorem. Both procedures are correct. Now this is what I have. I'll substitute y of 0, y dash of 0 and x of 0 values in the equation. So if I substitute them, I'll have this, right? S square into y of s minus y of 0 is nothing but 1. So minus s, y dash of 0 is negative 2. So minus of minus 2 plus 1.4 into s into y of s minus 1 plus 0.4 y of s equals to 0.2 into s into x of s minus, what is the value of x of 0? We have calculated it to be 2 minus 2 plus 1.5 into x of s. So we'll simplify this equation. And we'll take y of s common, right? If I simplify this equation and take y of s common, y of s is in these terms only. So I have 3 terms with y of s. So if I take y of s common, s square plus 1.4s plus 0.4, and I have minus s plus 2 minus 1.4, plus 2 minus 1.4 is 0.6, and on the right hand side I took x of s common in these two terms, right? So 0.2s plus 1.25, and I have a constant of minus 0.4. So I'll simplify it further. If I take this yes towards the right hand side, it will become plus yes, right? It will become plus yes, and here minus 1 minus 0.6. So minus 0.6 minus 0.4 becomes minus 1 plus yes, here I get that. And in place of x of s, I can substitute what is my x of t? Sorry, what is my x of s? I have calculated it to be 2 by s plus 3. I can substitute that value here, right, instead of x of s. So now I'll simplify this. On the right hand side. I took LCM and I'm simplifying. So what I'll get on the right hand side? I'll get s square plus 2.4s minus 0.5 divided by s plus 3. Now this is my right hand side. Now I'll take what the term on the left hand side towards the right hand side. So y of s is equals to this term. Now I need to take the inverse Laplace transform for this term to obtain my y of t, right? I have to get my y of t. So I'll take the inverse Laplace transform of y of s. This term here can be factorized into s plus 0.4 into s plus 1. It can be factorized. So I have three different factors for s. So I can apply partial fractions, three different partial fractions. A by s plus 1 plus b by s plus 3 plus c by s plus 4. And in the same way as we calculated the coefficients for partial fractions previously, we'll calculate A, B, C. So these are the three values. A, I'll get 1.58. B, I'm going to get 0.25. And C, I'll get C is negative 0.83. I'm going to substitute A, B, C values in my y of s, and this is what I will arrive at. Now I'll take inverse Laplace transform. If I apply inverse Laplace transform, what will I get? 1.58 is a constant. Inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s plus 1 is nothing but e power minus t into u of t. Then 0.25 is a constant. Inverse Laplace of 1 by s plus 3, e power minus 3t into u of t, minus 0.83 into e power minus 0.4t into u of t, right? That is what I will arrive at. This is my y of t. Y of t is nothing but the response of the system. That is what we are asked to calculate, y of t. So same method we'll follow for another differential equation. Here also we have to find the response of the system. So same method, no change anywhere. We'll calculate we'll apply the Laplace transform for the differential equation, and we'll substitute the initial conditions. Once we substitute the initial conditions, we will now simplify the equation to obtain y of s. So in place of x of s, we are going to substitute the transform of the given input, right? And we'll simplify the equation. So y of s will obtain. Once we obtain y of s, we have to find the inverse of y of s, that is nothing but the response of the system, right? This is our y of s. Now we'll apply partial fractions. After applying partial fractions, this is our y of s. We have substituted the values of a, b, and c. Then we'll apply inverse Laplace transform. To the equation. And we'll obtain the response y of t. Right, very similar to the previous problem. This is also same procedure. So to find the response of a given system, to find the response of a system when a differential equation is given, we have to apply the Laplace transform. Find y of s. By substituting the initial conditions, and then apply inverse Laplace transform for y of s. That is the procedure to find response of the system when a differential equation is given. Now, if you look at this question, we are asked to find the step response of the system. What is step response of the system? Step response means response of the system when the input is a unit step. That means I have to consider my x of t equals to my input x of t equals to unit step u of t. I'll consider x of t equals to u of t. That means I will get the step response, right? When the input is u of t, my output y of t is nothing but step response of the system. So the procedure again is same. Only difference is previously x of t was given directly. Now they have asked for step response, which means the input is nothing but a unit step. We have to derive this relation using the words in the question. Everything else is basically same. It is same. Now that is the end of Laplace transform.